Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. Whoa, and just like that, I'm back like I never left. It's your family social Shanasia Washington, streaming from the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. And you guys know I'm going to always tell you it's the best podcast on the planet. If I'm not going to say it and stand on it, who's going to believe it? But you know, I love this place. I'm super biased because I think it's a place that is needed, right? We bring the best stories in today. Let me tell you, we got a heavy one to unpack. You guys know I love all my guests. I treat these stories as really gold and genuine. But I'm not going to ramble. I'm going to give you our guest today. She's going to come to the stage and do the normal drill, tell us her name, where she's streaming from, and we get right into that story. Without any further waiting time, here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Hi there. My name is Sivani, and I'm coming from Central Missouri. And one of the biggest things that I want to share is how I've taken kind of lifetime trauma and been able to use that to stimulate growth where I am now thriving. So for me, it began when I was 12 years old. My sister, who was 5 years older than me, ended her life, and that destroyed my family. It destroyed my community. I had all of my friends, they didn't know how to treat me. They didn't know how to behave around that. So that left a big impact in my world that eventually, over years, began impacting my physiology. I did a lot to, find connection once again, but I think a lot of that connection was imbalanced or coming from that stress, from the feeling of abandonment or loss in that early years. So most of my adult life from about 30, I would say, sparked this sincere and very deep desire to understand a lot about life. And my body was this thing that pushed all of that. I have had multiple times when the autoimmune disorders popped up in my life. So rheumatoid arthritis when I was 21, when I was pregnant. And then it happened again when I was 28 and pregnant again. And so each of these things kind of kept showing me that, one, my body wasn't going to last forever. So I needed to start taking things a little bit more serious and pushing me towards a resolution that would work for me, that resonated with me. And I dove into all sorts of various different modalities. The thing that always seemed to work with me or for me was the Eastern tradition. So I was big into yoga. That's what resolved the rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s. Meditation helped me a lot with the spiritual damage, I think, that happened when the community and the greater sense of purpose fell away in that young life. And then my body pushed me one further time when, I thought I had it all together in my meditation practice and finding purpose and all of that, groundedness and my spirituality. But my body was saying, nope, we're not done yet. And that's when I discovered Ayurveda, which is a natural preventative medicine that's over 5,000 years old. And it's amazing because Western science is kind of validating a lot of that very, very old science. And once again, I was able to, there was a big healing story in that one. When I began noticing that my body was giving out on me, then I went to college for the first time at 40 years old, began studying Ayurveda, but I was too abusive to myself at that time. So I was making myself sicker and sicker and sicker. And my instructors, who are both Western doctors and they've studied Ayurveda. They suggested I just dive into the Western solutions at the time. We did find something that brought my body back into balance. And then that let me slowly and gently and calmly approach the principles of Ayurveda. And since then, I've been able to bring my body back into balance and have very recently stepped away from the need of Western prescription medicines because I've brought myself back into balance. I know that Western medicine will always be there for me if I need, but I'm doing what I need to bring that balance and wholeness that resonates more with me, and also eliminating a lot of the side effects that my doctors know are possible with that me continuing that medication. So that is how I've done it in my own life. And then now I help others that are at that stage in their life where they want to gently and calmly and peacefully begin to transform their life, enhance their physiology, but also their mental capacity. Often when our bodies are wore out, we're not as sharp, we're not as clear, we're not as capable as doing what we could do when those things come back into balance. So that's the whole of it for now.
It's a lot more, guys, and she's put it in a very beautiful package. But there are definitely some things that we have to ask her because it's been a journey. The first part of that segment, though, you mentioned the rheumatoid arthritis, and like my grandmother is battling with that as we speak. She's 77, and it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch the pain, dealing with Medicare plans and having limited resources to deal with it, and having like one provider has just been something that has changed me. I think even just with dealing with it and seeing how debilitating it's been for her. Very blessed, but it is something. So when I saw that definitely stuck out. And then the other part is particularly about death, like young death. It's happened several. I have a large family. The thing about having a large family, at some point we all have to go, right? And sometimes it's earlier than what we expect. So hearing that happen to your sister, of course, I know it's been a long time ago, but you still have my condolences because grief is a tricky process. I want you to tell me, because your journey has really been marked around loss, I think transformations and healing. That's what I've gathered from the whole picture. What would you say, I think, about that particular death alone? How did that help you redefine purpose and show up for yourself and kind of others? Because sometimes death has that shift for us.
Yeah, I think when I was ready, when I came to the place when I was ready to begin to actually face it, because like I said, I spent quite a few years just avoiding it and medicating it, with drugs and alcohol. Because like I said, I lost everything. My parents were very devout Catholics. And that was something that traumatized them, that, this doesn't happen. Why would it happen? And then also I think it's just a normal thing in families when there's such a shock like that, then there's an overcompensation, which kind of made things, in my opinion, others might not have it, but in my opinion, it made things a little bit too codependent. Because, you're constantly thinking, did I say something wrong? Am I the one? Am I missing something? Should I say? So there was a lot of that. But as I began to move forward, I could see how much that my sister's very young, she was only 18 years old. So very young. And she made one choice, and it was a choice when she just couldn't find anybody to hear her, value her, and see her where she was at, So that has been the huge impact in my life as I go forward. I help out a crisis center on the weekends because it enlivens me to be there, be the one that can offer that safe, non-judgmental space to uplift others. But it also is everything that I carry through my coaching and the services that I provide others. I'm not here to judge, or I'm not here to control. What I want to do is find your inner intelligence, pull that beauty forward and let you live that authentically, because the only reason you're not is somewhere there's some sort of trauma that's in the way. I got to experience that for myself firsthand, of unwinding that for myself. And now I love to do that. That is what my passion is in life, is to return power back where power belongs.
Mhm. And it's great because one of the things you said, like particularly in the intake form, she's like, like wellness is this act of rebellion. I'm like that has to be talked about, right? Because and the profits are probably from the disconnection, and I'm learning it too. It's not the easiest thing to learn. Sometimes it just hurts to know that. But for you, like, what are some of those biggest misconceptions about wellness that you had to unlearn? Because there are some things that I may have thought that was well or something to do for me that would make me well, but it sometimes hasn't proven to be it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like one of the big things is that wellness is very individualized. It's unique to each physiology, and that's the thing that I do love about Ayurveda is they bring that forward. So, for somebody going out and working out really hard in hot temperatures and stuff, that's great for their physiology. But for another individual, that is going to be the thing that actually creates greater inflammation. Or where organs aren't working well because they're not getting the nourishment that they need. Or, for some people, it's great to have really structured environments, but for others, that's something that will cause a lot of like the depression or, pulling them down. So there's these beautiful things that are on a pendulum or on a there's another word, but that's okay. The pendulum. So like, for some, they're on this extreme, for others, they're on this. And, there is no one size fits all in wellness. It's just not a reality.
Yes, absolutely, and that is something to remember because I think, well, at least for me, it was a generalized thing. Wellness, let's be clear, wellness was not even talked about. I mean, I was born in the '80s; it wasn't talked about in my household or whatever. I mean, it's something that I do try and speak to my son about now to kind of shift that dynamic. But we're not really having those real like wellness conversations that I think should happen, as early as possible, right? Especially in the world that we're in. Now, one of the things, Sivani, I thought that was it touched me in reading this because there was a part of your journey where you had to step away from your children. Okay, and this broke my heart. I want you to know that. Okay, while I was reading this, um, tell me about that a little bit, and then also too, how did you balance kind of that dynamic of family wherever they had to stay, and then also to the personal growth? Because sometimes when you're doing the best for you, the very best you just have to do it. It's not always the prettiest for everybody else. I just want to be clear there. And then also too, maybe talk to someone who is facing a similar crossroads because people will talk about, oh, this is what happened at the end. But when you're facing the thing and you're in the depth of it and you're in the crossword position, like this is the crossword, I have to do this. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it absolutely, hands down, was the hardest decision I've ever made. I was raised in a family where being a mother was the very most hands down important thing. And that's, like I said, I wasn't college educated. I didn't care about any of those things because all I wanted to do was have my children. But when I came to the reality, and it did happen after I gave birth to my daughter, and I saw her, I had, two boys first and then my daughter. And I sat there and I saw this brilliant, beaming, just amazing being, right? Powerful woman sitting here in this little teeny baby body. And all I could see were all of my compromises and how that's what I was going to pass down to her. I was also at an age where I was beginning to awaken to the fact that in my experience, my mother lied to me. We did have this conversation at that time, and she's like, darling, I didn't. You projected a lot onto what was taking place, but that I felt like she created this fantasy about what marriage and family life was all about, and mine wasn't what was the story tale, and neither was hers. Like at that time, she was her husband, my dad was moving her out of her dream house that they had spent all of this time in to make it smaller because he knew he was going to leave her through death. So all of these things were coming together, and I just really needed to have a spiritual purpose again in my life because I could not be where I was empty, depressed, facing the same sort of thoughts, even though I was putting on the pretty face and, all of that, the illusion for everybody else. I knew I was crumbling on the inside, and I could not represent that to her. So when I went through this spiritual evolution where I dove into meditation and I actually did step away to become a monk for a period of time, a lot of that was because of watching how I would not be able to make that fully in maintaining the role that I was in as in the space that I was. I needed to dive fully into that. And I was very connected with them for a while, but their father kept saying to them, well, she'll get over it and she'll come back and she'll be what we need her to be for us. So he kept holding me in that box. And I know it was, the best intentions, is because that's what he wanted in his life and stuff, but it was diminishing her because he couldn't honor what it was that I was doing and grow with me. So I needed to just stop that, because when I would go home and she would cry and mommy and my, it's going to give me a little bit, but mommy, have I done well enough now? Can you love me now? Because that's what she was hearing from her dad, is that I didn't love them because I was satisfying and fulfilling myself, finding that inside of myself. And that is what ultimately, she's now 18, but we have come back together. And that's essentially what I've helped her to connect with and understand as she's beginning to find the place where she's ready to leave. He's a good man, her father's a good man. He took good care of her and stuff, but now she needs to step out and find her purpose and live her life so that, she can be a stable place, even to love and nurture and support him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think really through your journey, I hope that she sees that sometimes there has to be tough decisions. And the way that we navigate it doesn't always look easy, but to see you sit here and be this clear and be this pure after having such a life of transformations really should really be a testament to her, of what can happen. Sometimes we have to choose a tough path. And I know it doesn't always seem like we're going to get the rosy lesson out of it because we're in the mud when it's happening. But it happens. I'm starting to see some of those tougher decisions that kept me up at night in tears starting to finally come around like full circle. I never thought I would feel it because it seemed like it was so much in the struggle for so long. Here in the space that we're in, Sivani, I mean, we are in social media world. It's Instagram and TikTok, and everything is so instant. It's this instant gratification. Everything is just, oh, it's in a microwave and it's done. But in gathering what I've learned about you, I really think it's this process of self-trust, maybe sometime a little bit of slowness, which is not always pushed now. You look around and people are scrolling around, especially to a woman that's like high performing. What would you tell them about, well, I have to do it now, I don't want to fall behind, but just telling them about their philosophy maybe of self-trust and maybe a little bit of slowness, especially when you're about to lose it all potentially. You think you're going to be falling behind, but if you don't get this thing right now, you're going to have a bigger problem.
Yeah. And that is the thing that I learned. I think that my body helped me to understand that, because I just always have been that go-getter. Like, I will accomplish, I will get up, I will. And then my body showing me how much that constant, drive, that constant push through is what actually was creating all the inflammatory conditions that led to autoimmune disorders in my body. So we might have the will, we might have the mind, the intellect to do all those things, but we have to come back to balance where we're nurturing and making sure that we are taking one small, powerful step, integrating it so that it becomes our new normal, not that it's something that we have to constantly, push and push and push. So when we do things a little bit slower and integrate them and allow them to become something that is, very nourishing and up and filling, then it's so much easier for us to apply ourselves at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's where growth is constant, that it never, ever stops. And we're constantly improving. And that's most of us that do have those really deep, strong drives for success it's really for growth. It's that we're always looking for more. And the best way to do that without damaging ourselves or the ones that we love around us is one very stable step, conscious, just choosing, this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to integrate this, then I'm going to bite off more. Because often we do bite off so much more than we're capable of chewing or digesting.
Absolutely. I want to go here because I think like comparison and competition, they are major barriers to healing. I want to say this again, ladies. Comparison and competition, and I mean this, are major barriers to healing, right? I want you to talk about how to personally overcome that mentality of keeping up, and how are we helping to kind of fill the gap in their mindset? Because even today, I left corporate, came into entrepreneurship, came into this space, but there's this strong spirit of competition. And it's so sad because if you know what happens when these cameras go off, if you know what happens in my day-to-day lifestyle, if you know that I'm running 17 hours out of the day and there's only 24, maybe you really wouldn't want to compete with it or even try and compare. And that's not to say that, but these are major barriers to healing. And I said, I have to talk to this about Sivani and her journey, because especially thinking about what we said earlier, even in the earlier segments, we talked about your upbringing and you had to be this model mom. I mean, we're conditioned sometimes to be in that level up, or it should be this way. Mm-hmm. Talk about competition and comparison as it relates to healing, and what maybe some of the things you guys are doing on your front to maybe fill that gap.
Yeah, so that's again, that one stems from the realization that oftentimes people get so pulled down and so depressed. I mean, they know that with social media, that's something that's begun to happen, is the more people spend time on that comparing themselves to others, or seeing what somebody else has and they don't have that begins to destroy our mental wellness. So one of the things that, like, again, how my sister's death, the choice for that impacts me is that the reality is that nobody ever can ever be you, ever. It doesn't matter, even if they're doing the exact same thing. So if we're both coaches for something, that nobody would be able to coach the way that I could coach. And I often refer to other individuals. So what I've begun to do is cultivate that in an ecosystem on my website, where I draw in all sorts of wellness professionals, because I'm confident in what I have to offer others. I don't need to worry that, if somebody else is a life and wellness coach like me and they know Ayurveda, that they are going to see and offer the same thing. In fact, oftentimes I would suggest that they go to that other individual, hear it from their point of view, from their perspective, because that's going to help it sink in to your own mind, your own body, your own spirit, in a way that mine can't. And those two different perspectives is what, then helps you have those aha moments that makes it yours. And from there, you can then more easily integrate the wellness, what tool, whatever it is, so much easier.
Yes. And it is really honing in on that identity. Like, once you truly understand and know who you are, just as easy as you said it, that there's no one else like you. I don't care if we went to the same school, the same neighborhood, even got the same bloodline running through us. We're not the same. We're on completely unique paths. We have unique perspectives, unique shifts, all at different times. And if people could really, really understand that, it could make I'm not going to say it's going to make the journey, peachy keen. It can make it a little bit easier if they were really honing on that identity. Now, we've, of course, like high level, talked about Explore Your Health, but I want to hear the rundown of it. I want to hear the overall goal, really your kind of key services. We've talked about it integrated in the questions, but if someone was to see this and say, do I need Explore Your Health? We have to have a clean segment here for you to tell us that, and then also to where to find it and how to connect with you.
Yeah. So basically the premise of Explore Yoga Health is There is a learner's library. That's kind of what I just talked about, or explorer's library, I'm going to say, because the premise of that is all sorts of wellness individuals coming together. So if you are one, I still want to have you visit me and let me know that you want in on that game, that you could then go in and lose yourself in that. So step away from social media for a moment where you're scrolling and just feeling worse about yourself, to all sorts of inspirational stories and individuals that are there to help you, that's what their goal is. So that's one level. And then the other level is, and it's soon to come, we're working on it behind the scenes, but we are going to begin creating these very affordable, one step at a time courses where you're learning one thing and how to integrate that, and that the course is there to support you. And then of course I am a life and wellness coach, and I do that one-on-one and support individuals that are more ready for that phase. So the idea there is that wherever you're at, that you have something to support you. If you're just at the beginning and you're like, I have no idea what resonates with me, then you can explore. And then when you have a better idea, then you can start taking small action steps to get you those wheels turning. And then then dive into the place where there's greater intimacy when you're working on things one-on-one, because, when something is a wellness, all aspects need to be healed together to rise up. And that can be found on my website at exploreyogahealth.com. And I can't remember what the other part of that was, but hopefully that's enough.
No, that was perfect. We just wanted to know the services and then where they can find it. So you did that, and then you told us the website. So I'm satisfied with that. The other part of it, we talked about kind of success, or you mentioned success being a rhythm, and I'm falling into that now because it seems like I'm finding success like in the smallest things. Like for me, today is a success because I'm here with Sivani, and this right here space for me. It's something I tell people, like I could have the worst day, and I come in here and it gets so much lighter. Right. And to me, that's success and wellness. You know what I mean? Because it seems like the chaos stops a little bit. I just have a good time. I found my tribe. I found women who are showing up and just doing the thing. So it just feels real good. Now, we don't know, like when the camera go off, all hell may break loose again. But at least for now, let me enjoy this 30 minutes of refreshing time for me. So for you, what is that next level of success looking like? And I find myself, and I'm just proud to say that if you probably would have asked me this last year on the same exact day, the same exact time, I wouldn't have the same answer. And I'm just really blessed to be in a place to where it's changing, but it feels good. Yeah. It's not comparison to someone else's ladder or whatever it looks like. So what does it look like for you? It doesn't even have to relate to Explore Yoga Health, but just for you, what does it look like?
Yeah. So for me, it is constant growth. I think early on in my life, I felt guilted or shamed because I like to, that constant challenge and coming at it. And there was probably some truth at that time where it was out of emptiness, out of looking, out of that place of needing to be fulfilled. So now, as I am at that that deeper stage of fulfillment, what I realize is that it can never stop. That I always, as I challenge myself and find solutions, that's where my success lies. So whether that has to do with money or whether it has to do with a garden that I plant outside, like I loved what you were saying, this podcast, when I'm immersed in that new project that is satiating all of these places where I haven't been able to, or I've never applied myself before, but now I can. My oldest was bringing up how they love the Renaissance time, and because the Renaissance man was able to do all sorts of things, and I feel like for me that really resonates. That once I learned to do something, why stop there? Success is constant growth and continued growth until the very last breath.
I love it. And I love that philosophy. And interestingly enough, I just made a post yesterday saying that all I wanted for my birthday was a garden. I was like, I don't want all this stuff. I just want a garden. I was like, what should I be planting right now? I just want to get on it. I've tried to have a lot of success, but now I'm in a better place. And I feel like I can nurture my garden. That's all I want for my birthday in 3 months. So I'm going to try to make that happen. But listen, Sivani, I told her before the show, because I do actually read my guest information. I told her what a beautiful journey of transformation and healing. And I don't take that lightly. I went through and I read it, everything. And when I saw her face, I was like, oh my gosh. I was so happy to see her face because it showed me a woman that has survived, a woman that is surviving. And that is something really to be celebrated. So I hope that you never sleep on your journey. I hope that you never count yourself out. And I hope that every day you root for yourself because you've overcome a lot. And I know you've probably told the story you're living in. And sometimes it just takes a fresh set of eyes to say, okay, this is really something. Because there were several moments in reading her. And I told her this transparently before it started. Several moments that broke my heart. And I said I had to get her here and I had to get it done. So I'm so happy she did that. But in other news, I tell people that the 30 minutes is always robbed here. It never feels like 30 minutes, but I'm fair. I give the 30 minutes, like I say, and we've already made it to final thoughts. We ask our guests in this period here, we cue over to you, final thoughts, and we say, give us some good parting words for this space and really something that captures the essence of the money. So I'm going to cue over to you for final thoughts, and I'll be back to close the show.
All right. Well, my final thoughts is to you out there, the audience that may be in a moment where you are hurting. And my utmost desire and hope for you is that you can look at me as an inspiration and that you can look and find, in your own heart, but look out in your universe for anybody that can support you, to lift you up, to take you to that next step. And then if you hit a plateau there, that don't stay anywhere where you feel stagnant. Start allowing that inner truth to come forward once again and become receptive. So, any situation where maybe it was once beautiful, but now it's falling short, dive into that courageous self that does exist inside of you and take that next step and experience what you are worth.
I love it. And Sivani, I have to thank you and honor you for being here today. I don't take it lightly. I try to come here and clear everything out. But tell people I may not ever get a chance to speak to Sivani again, but today we're going to make it the best opportunity that we have to connect, and we're going to go off of that. But to everybody that's out there, the Her Voice Shines podcast, I never leave this place. I'll tell you that I love you, and then miraculous things can happen when you let your voice shine. Until next time, I'll be back with another fabulous woman on the Her Voice Shines podcast. But until then, we're out.